Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Sword Art Online Alicization anime review. This one's going to be for episode 38 of Alicization, and this one is called End of Eternity. Another great episode. They're obviously building up the hype, but they delivered on an important, I suppose, payoff of this episode in that we got the conclusion to the Bercoli versus Vecta fight. An episode that for its first half felt like complete setup really delivered in its later half with an incredibly animated fight scene that just was so well done, but we'll get to it. So there's a few kind of plot threads in this episode. We start off with just a few minutes of getting basically reintroduced to a lot of our ALO characters. Klein arrived at the end of the last episode, meaning that everyone else was going to arrive. So we get the arrival of Egil, Liz, Silica, Sakia, Alicia, all the key characters from ALO basically come in. We get the Sleeping Knights and so on. Really worked well to get across, these are the characters we've met over the course of the entire series. First arc, second arc, third arc, that sort of thing. We're building up this kind of great army of characters here, and immediately this brings Asuna so much hope. She heals herself, she immediately takes over command, even ahead of Renly. We have a nice little moment of Renly getting to meet Liz and Silica, which I like, that they're still amazed by the idea of real worlders, and wow, you look kind of normal, you're not just all kind of faceless knights. That worked really well. And so we just got a nice hero shot for all of the characters, highlighting that the tide of battle is in our heroes' favor here, as we get to see all of them just come in, take out a bunch of characters, and yeah, we're going to defend here. Asuna's confident and happy that everything's going to go well, but we'll see what happens. So that was definitely nice. I really liked the moment of just Asuna healing, and her confidence is completely back with her friends around her, and they're going to save Kirito. And then we switch to the ocean turtle, and we get quite a lengthy explanation here, because it is one of the more complex dynamics here of how do we actually go about healing Kirito given what's happened to him. We know the full extent of what's happened to him now, because he's basically hurt his own soul. He's hurt his own Fluct Light in the complex situation that happened when the kind of power was shut off and he got injured, came at the same time as him blaming himself for basically failing in that moment, the death of Yu-Gi-Oh and so on. So he has damaged his own soul. The way he views himself is kind of gone at this point. That's why Kirito's in the situation he's in. And they noticed that okay, there's been two fluctuations in Kirito's Fluct Light since he's been in there, since the injury. One was when Asuna arrived in and met him. The other is when Sinon met him. So the question is okay, how do we connect all this together to find some sort of a solution? And Higa comes at it from the point of view of he's thinking all about it technically, the subject and stuff like that, whereas Rinko presents more of the emotional point of view, and you get more nuance from it that way. Don't treat it as being subjects, but people, emotions, and the idea of the version of yourself inside others. People very well, they have a version of you within inside them, because the idea here is that okay, these are, within the game, the three people who can make a difference here are the three characters who are also in the actual underworld system. They're diving in the same way Kirito is, so they're the most connected to the overall underworld system. They are Asuna, Sinon, and Lifa, who also happen to be three of the closest people to Kirito in the entire world. His girlfriend, his sister, and I suppose the girl who is a friend who he is closest with, which I definitely would say of the rest of the group is Sinon, because of the death gun incident and how sort of similar they are in some ways. That definitely works. So they're creating the idea that if they can properly make the full connection and basically link Lifa, Asuna, and Sinon's soul translators to Kirito's one, they're three versions of Kirito, how they view him, them remembering him as the, I suppose, hero character, the stuff that's missing from Kirito right now that he blames himself for and can't get back. By connecting that all together, it'll return, but they can only make the final connection by going into like the main control room, which is where it's dangerous. That involves, you know, the sort of lockdown that they're in right now in the Ocean Turtle, where one group is in the sub-control room, one group is in the main control room, and the rest of it is sort of locked off because they're each guarding their own section. So they're going to have to take a risk to make this happen, and Higa is going to be the one to do it. Kirito put himself on the line to make sure Alice was safe. This is the least he can do to try and get Kirito back. And so we're introduced to one of the other kind of researchers here, Yanai, and he's going to come with Higa. So that's the setup, and they're also going to use one of the robots that they introduced previously as a distraction. So that's the plan. That'll be a distraction. They'll go down and make the connections, and hopefully that will bring Kirito back. We'll see exactly how it plays out. After that, we got into, I suppose, what's going to be the big focus of this episode, what everyone's going to be talking about. The conclusion of the battle between Broccoli and Vecta. And it was great. The animation was phenomenal. You could tell they got some of the best animators here. They put the time and the effort in. It looked so different from the rest of the episode. At times there was this sort of bolder lines, which I actually really liked. It looked different, but it looked so cool. And just the fluidity of the animation, you can tell that they really went all out in terms of this one-armed Broccoli fighting for his life against Vecta, who is so supremely confident that everything is going to work in his favor. And the build up towards, he's not going to win in a straight up sword fight. He's going to have to use his last ultimate technique. So we've seen how he can send attacks into the future. So his other ability obviously relates to the past. And I love how they got this across, because in the novel they had to spend a good amount of time explaining this via text, but I think it comes across visually quite nicely here as well. That ever since he got his arm cut off, he remembered that as the moment, and he counted, with the idea is that his technique slashes like 10 minutes into the past, and it is based on like location. So he remembers the location on the battlefield where his arm was cut off, and guides the battle back into that situation so that he can do his past slash where Vecta was standing at that point and kill him that way. But you think it's not going to go right with about 10 seconds left. Vecta realizes it, but then Broccoli's dragon comes in to sort of sacrifice himself to, you know, give Broccoli the chance to finish it. And I loved the tension here, the build to where just as you think Vecta's going to get Broccoli, he slams the sword through that sort of memory of Broccoli from where Vecta was standing, and then the clock ticks of like, this is now part of Vecta's history that he was hit in the past 10 minutes ago, and it changes to affect the present, and he just immediately is killed. But Broccoli dies as well. He dies to kill Vecta, and I think a great way to do this kind of middle fight getting towards the end. That this is the big villain, the leader of the Integrity Knights kills him but dies himself in the process. But we've learned the whole time that the real worlders can come back in if they have another account, and that is the big tease here. Vizalgo has come back in with a new account, his actual account as POH, and now Gabriel Miller is coming back in as Subtilizer, which is a great reveal. Like, we've heard that name before, you know, previous winner of Bullet of Bullets and so on. Now we're going to see Gabriel Miller in his like original account, him as he normally is, this much more, I suppose, realistic looking Gabriel Miller in his account he's familiar with. And who's on the way to get him? Sinon. It's great setup of like, GGO is like Sinon's game. And who is the person she's lost to before? Subtilizer. And here she is going up against him again. But this time it is a secondary battle for Alice. So that's wonderful setup, and I'm excited to get to that fight when it happens. Because you have to remember, at the end of the last episode, Asuna sent Sinon after the dragons that Sinon can fly. So she's going to arrive on the scene shortly, I suppose, to meet with Alice, which, you know, that was another nice emotional moment as they did the end of Bercoli. He dies in front of Alice, she wakes up, and, you know, there's the acknowledgement of, like, he did treat her as a daughter, she views him as a father figure, and he's gone here in protecting her. And then they did this sort of spirit projection, him watching the battlefield as he and the dragon go off, but then his memories of the administrator that Bercoli remembers, which is primarily, I suppose, the earlier years before she completely lost herself, as being a much nicer person who sort of cared more about them. And I like that, of just, you know, you don't hate me. And he's like, it wasn't great, it maybe lasted a bit too long, but what a life it was. And it was only possible to live this long and get to these key events in his life because he did live this long. And he can die, you know, with some regrets, but that this is what he needed to do at this point. And at this stage, the last regret is just that he does have to leave, in terms of his family, it all to Finatio, who of course is revealed to be pregnant here, and we cut over to her as she senses that Bercoli has passed, but she will look after their child. So that's really nice. I think having an arc like this, I think, really works to get across the idea that these are these Fluchtlights. These aren't like full-on humans, not real-worlders, but their arcs are just as heavy and detailed and emotional as the actual characters here. And that makes them all the more realistic, and that's what we're fighting for in all of this, is for Alice, like Higa said in this episode, that we don't want Alice to just be used to basically be an AI to control drones. She is a new form of life, human, but just in a slightly different form. That's what Kirito realized from the start. It's what most of the SAO characters and gamers realize, but some of the scientists have only just come to realize. That's the whole, I suppose, Kikuoka thing, him realizing the truth behind this in a way. And yeah, that's the setup here of, I guess, there's going to be more foreign players coming in addition to Subtilizer arriving on the scene. We know Vizago is going to be attacking at some point also, so we'll get to see him at, I suppose, full power. And yeah, we're building up to a big, you know, climax here of, like, when is Kirito going to come back? In what situation is he going to come back? Will it work? What sort of drama or action is actually going to happen on the ocean turtle itself? Sinon is going to be in action. You know, Lifo, we didn't see her in this episode, but where are she and Lilpalin going to go? Like, they're separated from everyone, so all the battles are eventually going to have to come together. So really strong setup there. But yeah, good episode. I'm glad they put, like, so much effort into the Bercoli fight, because if that was just a small part of the episode, I think this wouldn't be the most amazing episode, because the middle section was so explanation focused just on the ocean turtle with Higa. But the fact that they went all out with it really, I think, put this episode over the edge into being, you know, that has to be considered one of the best animated sections of SAO we've seen. Very strong ending for Bercoli as a character, in that he's defeated Vecta, so sort of the specific powers of Vecta are sort of gone. But, you know, Gabriel Miller is going to be coming back in, and fundamentally a lot of the powers are just his himself, because he's going in via Soul Translator, so it's his soul that is the one with the sort of void in it, causing a lot of this problems to happen when you face him. So yeah, they're my thoughts on the episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on this one. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.